I've driven trucks for 30 years. Seen every kind of highway weirdness you can imagine, tornadoes twisting in the distance, deer exploding across windshields, tweakers waving machetes in the dark. But nothing ever prepared me for what happened on the stretch of I-70 between Salina and Oakley, Kansas. They say that stretch of highway's cursed. Long, flat, empty. Perfect for vanishing without a trace. It was the graveyard shift. Midnight to 6 a.m. I'd just fueled up outside of Salina and was cruising west with a load of frozen chicken bound for Denver. The CB was quiet. No chatter. Just the soft hum of rubber on asphalt and the occasional flicker of headlights behind me. That's when I saw them. The lights. At first, I thought it was just another semi behind me. But it wasn't headlights, it was floating. Too high off the ground. Too steady. No bounce. No engine. Just a glow. Soft and pulsing, like something alive. I slowed to get a better look in my mirrors. That's when my radio screeched. A burst of static. Then silence. Then a voice I'll never forget, "Pull over now. You are not alone." I slammed the brakes. My rig screeched to a halt on the shoulder. The lights behind me blinked out instantly, like they were never there. I jumped out, heart pounding, flashlight in hand. Wind whipping across the plains. No lights. No vehicles. No sound. Only the blackness of night stretching endlessly in all directions. I walked a slow circle around the truck. My boots crunched on the gravel. I kept looking up, half expecting a drone or a chopper, but the sky was clear. Full of stars. No aircraft. But then, something shifted. The stars started moving. Not fast, not blinking like a plane. Just gliding. Silent. 3 of them, forming a triangle. They hovered directly above me, impossibly still. That's when my skin began to tingle. Like static electricity across every inch of my body. I tried to move. My legs felt locked. My limbs wouldn't obey. Then came the sound, low, vibrating. Like a cello string plucked at the base of my spine. It wasn't in my ears, it was inside me. My teeth buzzed. My vision went white. And just like that, I was gone. I woke up behind the wheel. Still on I-70. Engine running. Truck parked on the side of the road. CB silent. It was 4:46 a.m. 4 hours had passed. But it felt like a second. Like I blinked. And then I felt it, wetness on my neck. I reached up and my fingers came away bloody. There was a small, circular wound behind my left ear. No pain. Just a raw, oozing circle of skin, like something had been inserted, or removed. I checked the truck's dashcam. Dead. No footage past 12:11 a.m. My logbook? Scrambled. The entries were there, but the handwriting wasn't mine. Shaky, uneven. And on the final page, in ink darker than the rest, was a phrase I never wrote, "They ride above the corn." I don't remember writing it. But I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. That was 6 months ago. I tried to forget. I really did. Told myself it was a seizure. Or fatigue. Or some kind of mental break. I stopped driving nights. Started sleeping with the lights on. Got therapy. Got drunk. Nothing helped. But last week, the buzzing came back. Same sensation. Same tingle across the spine. Only this time, it was in my house. And yesterday morning, I woke up with dirt on my feet. Mud on the soles. Gravel in the bed. And behind my ear? The wound had returned. Fresh. I don't think it's over. I think I'm being tracked. Marked. Every time I look at the stars now, they feel closer. So I'm telling you this while I still can. If you're driving I-70 and you see lights that don't belong, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. I was in town for a conference. One of those insurance expos, suits, lanyards, fluorescent lighting, and stale coffee. Not exactly a thriller. I flew in late, exhausted, and booked the cheapest hotel with last-minute availability, the Glenwood Inn, just outside Albuquerque. It looked fine online. 3 stars. Decent reviews. I didn't care. I just needed a bed and blackout curtains. The man at the front desk barely looked up when I arrived. Room for 19, he said, sliding over the keycard without another word. Not 401. Not 402. For 19, the elevator creaked the whole way up. 4th floor smelled like bleach and wet carpet. Lights flickered overhead, and there was this odd silence, as if the floor were sealed off from the rest of the building. I found the room. The door opened too easily. No resistance. It felt already unlocked. I stepped in. Room for 19 was cold. Not air-conditioned cold, wrong cold. Like basement cold. Like deep space cold. The kind that clings to your bones. Everything inside looked perfectly normal: queen bed, desk, dresser, TV bolted to the wall, one sad lamp in the corner. But there was something off. The shadows were too long. The air too still. Like the room had been waiting. I tossed my bag on the bed and tried to shake it off. Probably just overtired. The minibar was empty, so I walked back down to get a soda. At the front desk, I asked the clerk if I could get a Coke. He looked up slowly. His eyes squinted. "What room did you say you're in?" For 19, his face went pale. That room's closed. Has been for years. I blinked. No, I just checked in. You gave me the key. No, sir. I assigned you 204. He turned the screen toward me. My booking, my name, my check-in. Room 204. I showed him the key card. He stared at it like it was radioactive. Then he said, "Wait here." He walked into the back office and never came back. After 10 minutes of standing there, I gave up. Maybe he'd had a breakdown. Maybe I was having one. I went back up to the 4th floor. Only there was no room for 19. The number skipped, 417, for 18. For 20, I stood there staring at the wall where my door should have been. Where it had been. I even reached out and touched it, solid drywall. No outline, no door frame. Just painted over emptiness. My keycard was still in my hand. I slid it across the invisible wall. And the wall clicked. A seam appeared. A hidden door. And it opened. Same room. Same bed. Same lamp. But this time, there was something sitting in the chair by the window. I froze. It didn't move. Not at first. Just sat there, pale, thin, long arms resting on the armrests. Its head was too smooth. Eyes too large. Skin like damp paper. My body screamed run, but my feet moved forward. I couldn't stop. I stood in the doorway, breathing shallow, as it slowly turned its head toward me. No sound. No blinking. Just a dead stare. Then it raised one long finger and pointed at me. And the room began to shift. The walls bent inward. The lamp flickered wildly. The air filled with a low, mechanical hum, and the window went pitch black, like space itself was pressing against it. Then I was in a different place. Not the room. Not any room. I was floating. Weightless. Naked. Lights all around me. Sharp, bright, white blue. Shapes moved around me, grey, featureless, tall. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. Something pushed into my neck. Another needle slid beneath my ribs. My body seized, and then I woke up. Back in room 204. Morning light peeked through the curtains. My clothes were on the chair. My suitcase at the foot of the bed. I shot up, checked myself. Neck, bandaged. Side, tender. I peeled back the gauze. 2 puncture marks. Clean. Precise. I ran to the front desk. The morning clerk didn't know me. No record of my check-in. No manager on duty. No surveillance cameras. My credit card hadn't been charged. I left that hotel and never went back. But the wounds didn't heal. And last week, a new one appeared. Right above my hip. A third scar. I hadn't left my apartment in days. I looked up Glenwood Inn on Google Maps. It doesn't exist anymore. No records. No reviews. No listing. Only one image left in the cache, a grainy photo of the building with a single window lit on the 4th floor. In the photo, if you look closely, you can see me, staring back. My name's Caleb Anders. I inherited my grandfather's farm in upstate Missouri last year. It came with 80 acres of corn, 2 tractors that barely ran, and a sagging red barn that had been locked up since I was a kid. Grandpa never let anyone near that barn. Whenever I asked why, he'd grow real quiet and say, "That place ain't right, son. It listens." As a kid, I thought it was just old man superstition. But when I finally moved in after he passed, I learned the truth. And now I don't think I'll ever leave this farm again, not because I don't want to, but because I don't think they'll let me. It started with the humming. Low. Constant. Coming from the barn. At first, I figured it was just wind rattling through the boards. Maybe an animal got stuck inside. So I grabbed my flashlight and bolt cutters one night after dinner and headed out to break the lock. The second I stepped onto the dirt path that led to the barn, the hum got louder. Like it knew I was coming. The lock came off easy. Too easy. It crumbled in my hands like it had rusted from the inside out. I hesitated for a moment, then swung the doors open. The air inside hit me like a punch in the face. Not mold. Not manure. Something else. Sterile. Chemical. Cold. And there, in the center of the barn floor, was a perfect circle of black soil. Completely untouched by dust, debris, or hay. Perfect. Smooth. And glowing faintly. I didn't sleep that night. The humming followed me back to the house. Not loud, but inside my ears, like tinnitus, but rhythmic, pulsing. I thought I was losing it. Next morning, I woke up to find my cattle all clustered at the far end of the pasture, refusing to come near the barn. One of them had blood trickling from its nose. Another had gone blind. The vet couldn't explain it. I told him about the humming. He looked at me like I was crazy and said it was probably radiation from some old equipment buried on the property. But there was no equipment. Just soil. Old wood. Dust. That night, I heard it again, but this time inside my house. Coming through the pipes. The walls. Even the floorboards. My ears began to bleed. And I started seeing them. The first time I saw them, they were just silhouettes at the edge of the cornfield. Tall. Thin. Still. When I shined my spotlight on them, they vanished, just gone. No rustling. No footprints. Just nothing. But they came back every night. Closer. Closer. Until they were watching me through the windows. I boarded up the house. Stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. My skin got pale. I developed tremors. But I couldn't leave. Every time I packed the truck to go, I'd find the engine gutted the next morning. Or all 4 tires slashed, clean cuts, like scalpels. Once, I drove 5 miles toward the highway, and somehow ended up right back in front of the barn. No turns. No back roads. Just back. The barn kept humming. The circle of soil kept glowing. And I kept losing time. One morning, I woke up in the barn. Lying inside the circle. No tracks. No open doors. Just me, the dirt, and a strange new scar across my chest, zigzagged like lightning. It didn't hurt. But when I looked in the mirror, it shimmered, just for a moment. Like the wound had been stitched with metal thread. That's when I stopped fighting it. I stopped trying to leave. I stopped calling for help. I unplugged the phone. Shot the modem. Let the mail pile up. Let the power die. Now I live by lantern light. And I wait. Because the barn has stopped humming. Which means they're ready. Last night, I heard movement above the rafters. When I looked up, the boards peeled away, revealing a sky that wasn't a sky. Just blackness, filled with slow-moving shapes, like jellyfish suspended in tar. Lights blinked in patterns, language I couldn't understand but felt in my skull. And then I wasn't in the barn anymore. I was inside something else. A chamber. Sterile. Metallic. The walls curved, pulsing gently. I was floating again. Paralyzed. But awake. Their faces were blank. Pale gray. No mouths. No expression. One of them reached out with a hand that wasn't a hand, and touched my scar. And suddenly I understood. The barn wasn't just a building. It was a beacon. A womb. And I was part of what they were growing inside it. I don't know how much longer I'll remain human. But I can feel it changing me. My dreams are filled with starlight and machinery. I can hear signals no one else can. I haven't eaten in 3 weeks and I don't feel hungry. And last night, I looked in the mirror and saw their eyes staring back. So if you ever drive through Lynn County and see a red barn humming on the horizon, don't go near it. Don't even look at it. Because once you hear the hum, it's already too late. The last time I saw her, she was standing by the fire pit, laughing, hoodie pulled up, hand stuffed in her sleeves, face lit orange by the flames. That was before the lights came. Before the screams. Before the campground disappeared. We were 5 college kids on a weekend camping trip in northern Arizona, me, Jason, Emily, Tori, and Derek. Finals were done, and we needed a break from dorm life. Emily found this secluded site online, Dagger Ridge Campground. No cell signal. No park rangers. No fees. Perfect place to unplug and do dumb things in the woods. Or so we thought. The first red flag? No sign at the entrance. No parking lot. Just a narrow dirt road off the highway with 2 tire ruts vanishing into the pines. We drove in anyway. After about a mile, we found a clearing. Small fire pit, 3 stone benches, and a rusted-out metal sign half buried in the brush. It had no text, just a burned-in symbol, 3 concentric rings with a triangle in the center. We joked it looked cult-y. Emily said it was probably some hippie retreat. Tori took a picture. That was the last thing her phone ever did. First night was normal. We pitched tents, cracked beers, grilled hot dogs. Around 1 a.m., we saw lights through the trees, soft, pulsing blue. We figured it was some other group's fire pit. Jason went to check it out. He didn't come back for 2 hours. When he finally stumbled back into camp, he was soaked. Shivering. Couldn't speak. Just dropped to his knees and started dry heaving. We wrapped him in blankets. I asked where he'd been. He said, I walked for 5 minutes, it felt like days. I think I saw the inside of the sky. We all thought he was high or dehydrated. But he didn't sleep that night. Just sat by the fire, staring at the woods, whispering numbers under his breath. Next morning, Derek's tent was empty. Unzipped. Sleeping bag still warm. No sign of struggle. Just gone. His boots were 10 feet from the tent, pointed toward the forest. Tori screamed. We searched for hours. No trail. No blood. No prints. Just trees and more trees. Then Emily found something in the dirt. A tooth. Still bleeding at the root. That's when we decided to leave. But the road wasn't there anymore. No tire tracks. No path. No signs. We should have seen the car within 20 yards. But it was like the forest had shifted. Like it didn't want us to go. Jason started mumbling again. It's here. It's right underneath us. The campground's just the surface. It's what's below. His eyes rolled back. We dragged him into a tent and zipped it shut. He clawed at the inside, then went completely silent. That night, the lights came back. But this time, they were closer. Hovering just above the treetops. Pale blue and whispering. That's the only word I can use, whispering. Not like wind or static. Like thoughts, just beneath your skull. Tori got nosebleeds. Emily threw up black bile. I couldn't move my legs. Then Jason stepped out of the tent. Naked. Eyes glowing faintly. And behind him, rising up over the tree line, was a structure. Not a ship. Not a building. A shape. Impossible angles. Organic. It bent the air around it. Warped the stars. My brain tried to make sense of it, and failed. Jason walked toward it, arms raised. The light swallowed him whole. And then he was gone. We blacked out. I woke up to birds chirping and blue sky overhead. No fire pit. No tents. No stone benches. No Emily. No Tori. Just me, lying in a clearing I didn't recognize. The only thing left behind was that burned metal symbol, half melted into the dirt. It's been 3 months. The authorities never found the campground. No records of a Dagger Ridge. No signs of Jason, Emily, or Tori. Not even a missing persons report for Derek. His parents say he never existed. My memory is rotting. Whole pieces are gone. My reflection changes every few days. My teeth ache constantly. Some of them have shifted, growing longer. I'm scared to sleep. When I do, I dream in languages I've never heard. I wake up with soil under my nails. Sometimes blood. But the worst part? I found that same burned-in symbol near my apartment, painted under a bridge on my route to work. 3 rings. 1 triangle. It wasn't there before. And now, every night, I hear whispering coming from the sky. They took something from me in those woods. And I think they left something in return. I was stationed at Walker Air Force Base in Roswell, New Mexico, from 1972 to 1975. Back then, I worked in radar operations. Most nights were routine, watching blips that weren't blips, filing false alarms, tracking weather balloons. But one night in the summer of '74, we got a blip that didn't go away. And what we found became known to the 6 of us who saw it as Project Waterfall. They made us swear it never happened. But I'm old now. And dying. And I need someone to know the truth before it takes me, too. It was July 4th, 1974. We were expecting a slow shift, holiday night, minimal air traffic. I was at Station Echo, just off base, manning the west quadrant. Around 0200 hours, the radar picked up something massive entering airspace from the northwest. No transponder. No call-in. Just a huge object descending fast. At first, we thought it was a crash. We scrambled jets. Sent alerts. But just as it hit 600 feet altitude, it stopped. Dead still. Then it dropped off radar. Except it didn't crash. We never saw a plume. No sound. No debris. Just gone. 2 hours later, MPs were knocking on our doors. They flew us out in unmarked choppers. No lights. No IDs. We landed in a valley north of the base, flat desert, scattered brush, and a perfect circle of scorched earth, maybe 150 feet wide. Everything inside that circle was melted. The air was cold. Too cold for New Mexico. They walked us toward the center. Buried halfway in the sand was an object. Black. Metallic. Seamless. Like obsidian had been folded into shape. And it was humming. Not loud and low. Vibrational. Like a pressure in your teeth. Some of the guys threw up from vertigo. I nearly blacked out. Then the commander showed us a hatch. It had no handle. No hinges. Just a thin vertical slit that looked like glass. When I touched it, the hum stopped. And the hatch opened. Inside was nothing like any aircraft we'd seen. No seats. No wires. No switches. Just a long, curved hallway glowing faintly, like the walls were lit from within. We were told to document everything. Take samples. Photograph. I still have one of the photos. Kept it hidden all these years. It shows a shadow, tall, inhuman, standing at the far end of the corridor. But when we got there, it was gone. We never found the figure. But we found rooms. Some empty. Some filled with equipment we couldn't explain. One chamber had a sphere floating midair. No supports. Just spinning slowly, humming in sync with the ship. Another room had drawings on the wall, etched into the surface like it had been laser burned. The symbols didn't match any language. But some looked eerily close to early cuneiform. Others looked like star maps. One of them matched a constellation that shouldn't be visible from Earth. They told us to call it Project Waterfall. Said it was a recovered atmospheric anomaly. We knew that was bullshit. 2 days later, 3 of our team went missing. No AWOL. No trace. Just gone. The next week, another guy, Miller, blew his brains out in the barracks. Left a note that said, "They're not done with me." That left 2 of us. And we were told never to speak of it again. They moved the object underground. I heard rumors it was taken to Site Delta, deep under the Nevada desert. I was discharged 2 months later with a medical exemption. They paid me hush money. Signed NDAs. Threatened my family. But even after I left, I kept hearing the hum. I moved to Oregon. Grew a beard. Changed my name. Started working night shifts at a lumber yard. But the dreams never stopped. Always the same, I'm back in the desert. Standing before the ship. And the hatch opens. And something steps out. I can't remember its face. But I always wake up bleeding from my nose, ears ringing, teeth loose in my gums. I've seen others. Veterans. Ex-airmen. Showing up in forums. Sharing symptoms. Seeing shapes in mirrors. Hearing tones in static. I think whatever we touched that night didn't want to be found. And now, it's calling us back. Yesterday, I got a letter. No return address. Inside was a photo of the object, taken from above, black against the desert. Freshly unearthed. Same circle of scorched ground. Same etchings. On the back, in familiar handwriting, Waterfall is opening again. Time to come home. I don't know how they found me. But I think I've been tracked since the day I touched it. I've started blacking out again. Losing time. Finding dust in my pockets. Sand under my fingernails. And sometimes, in the silence between thoughts, I hear that hum. Not from outside. From inside my head. So if I disappear in the coming days, don't believe the obituary. Don't believe in natural causes. Know this, the crash in Roswell was just the beginning. Project Waterfall was the sequel. And next time it opens, we won't be the ones doing the studying. When I was 10, my parents left me with my grandma for the summer while they toured Europe. She lived in a faded ranch house in the middle of nowhere, Deer Creek, Arkansas. Population maybe 200 if you counted the dogs. No internet. No cable. Barely even electricity when the wind blew wrong. So I spent most of that summer parked in front of her ancient tube TV, flipping through the 5 local stations it could barely pick up with its rabbit ears wrapped in foil. But there was one channel, a ghost channel, that wasn't listed in the TV guide. It didn't have a number. Just static. Until midnight. Then it came alive. I first noticed it on July 3rd. Everyone else was asleep, and I was bored out of my mind, clicking through channels at full volume because the remote didn't work. Right between channel 8 and 9, where there should have been just fuzz, I caught a flicker. A frame of something. I stopped. Waited. Static again. Then, slowly, the picture returned. Black and white. Grainy. Like an old home video. The footage showed a room I didn't recognize. Bare walls. Fluorescent light buzzing above. A single wooden chair in the center. Sitting in the chair was a man with no face. Just smooth skin where his features should have been. He turned slowly toward the camera. And then it cut back to static. I ran to wake up my grandma. She said I was dreaming. That it was probably a rerun of Twilight Zone or something. But I wasn't dreaming. I knew what I saw. The next night, I stayed up. 11:59 p.m. static. Midnight. Flicker. This time, the footage showed a hallway. Endless. Flickering lights overhead. Something crawling on the ceiling, long, with too many joints. It moved toward the camera. Right before it reached the lens, cut to static. I started tuning in every night. Always at midnight. Always the same, a few seconds of something horrifying. Then static. I started calling it the static channel. And I couldn't stop watching. One night, it showed a bedroom. Small. Familiar. Same quilt on the bed. Same bookshelf. Same creaky door. It was my room at my grandma's house. The camera was in the corner. Watching me sleep. I felt ice crawl up my spine. On the screen, my sleeping body twitched. And then the figure appeared again, the man with no face. Standing in the corner, barely lit. He raised one finger. Pointed directly at me. And the screen went black. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat up with the lights on, TV unplugged, heart pounding. But I still heard it. The faint buzz of static, coming from the unplugged TV. Next morning, I told my grandma everything. Her face went pale. Then she said, "You saw it, too." She took me into the basement. Dug out a cardboard box marked 1975, "Don't open." Inside were VHS tapes. Unlabeled. Moldy. She played one. It was footage from the static channel. Same images. Same hallway. Same faceless man. "I started watching it when I was a girl," she said. "Same as you. Couldn't stop. I thought I was going crazy until I started recording it." She pointed to her chest. And then, this happened. She unbuttoned her blouse. And there, just above her heart, was a circular burn, like a ring. I stopped watching. But it didn't matter. It's in me now. I tried to quit. I really did. I unplugged the TV. Smashed the antenna. Slept downstairs. But the signal followed me. I'd see flickers in the microwave door. Hear whispers in the static of the radio. The images got stronger. I started seeing the faceless man in reflections, mirrors, windows, spoons. I'd blink, and he'd be gone. One night, I woke up with blood running from my eyes. The burn on my chest had appeared, same size. Same place. And the TV was back. Fully intact. Already on. Already tuned to the channel. That was years ago. I'm an adult now. But I still see it. Every night at midnight, no matter where I am, some screen turns on by itself. Phone. Laptop. TV. Doesn't matter. Always that same low hum of static. Always a glimpse of something just on the edge of understanding. And the more I watch, the more I change. I haven't slept in weeks. My skin is pale. My eyes glow faintly in the mirror. I hear voices whispering coordinates and countdowns. I'm becoming part of it. And last night, the channel didn't show a room. It showed me. Sitting in the wooden chair. Faceless. Pointing. If you ever see a strange channel at midnight, one that isn't numbered and doesn't belong, turn it off. If you can. Because once it sees you, it doesn't forget. And one day, you'll see it from the other side of the screen. They say some dreams feel more real than waking life. But what do you call it when your waking life feels like a dream you can't escape? This happened to me 3 summers ago, August 17th, to be exact. I remember the date because it was the first time I woke up outside. Not in my bed. Not even in my house. But flat on my back in the middle of my backyard, staring straight up at the stars. And the clock on my phone read exactly 3:33 a.m. I live in a small town in Vermont. Quiet. Boring, even. I'm not the kind of person who sleepwalks. No history of night terrors. Nothing like that. But that night, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails, a nosebleed, and a strange ache behind my right eye. I laughed it off. Blamed the whiskey. Went back inside. But the next night, it happened again. I double-checked every door and window before bed. Took a melatonin. Plugged in white noise. Still, I woke up at 3:33 a.m., lying in the backyard. Same stars. Same position. Same bloody nose. Only this time, I wasn't alone. There were footprints next to me in the dew. Bare. Thin. Elongated. And they weren't mine. Night 3, I didn't go to bed. I stayed up with a flashlight and a GoPro strapped to my chest. Set up motion sensors. Sat by the window with a thermos of coffee and my phone recording. I remember looking at the clock, 3:32 a.m. Everything was normal. Then I blinked. And I was outside. Standing this time. Not lying down. Just standing. Frozen. Eyes locked on the sky. And hovering silently above the tree line was a triangle of lights. They weren't blinking. Weren't moving. Just suspended there, pulsing slowly. Blue-white. Like they were, breathing. Then I heard it. A voice. But not out loud. Inside my skull. You are ready. Then I blacked out. I woke up on the kitchen floor. It was 6:14 a.m. The sun was rising. My GoPro was gone. My motion sensors were all fried, batteries melted. My phone had recorded 3 hours of static. But buried in the audio was a frequency. A repeating pattern. Low. Mechanical. I sent it to a friend of mine who works with audio analysis. He called me 2 days later, shaken. Said the frequency wasn't just sound, it was data. Encoded pulses in a structure similar to Morse, but not quite. He translated part of it. Said the message repeated only 3 words, "We are building." After that, things got weirder. I began waking up with small incisions on my body. Clean, round marks with no scabbing. Like something had been inserted. Or removed. One on my thigh. One at the base of my skull. One directly over my heart. Doctors had no explanation. MRI scan showed a foreign object in my nasal cavity. They tried to remove it, but it vanished during surgery prep. Gone. Like it was never there. My blood work changed, too. Elevated levels of iron. Trace elements of a rare isotope that doesn't occur naturally on Earth. And then came the dreams. Every night, I saw the same place, a vast black plain. Stars overhead, but none I recognized. No moon. No wind. And rising in the distance, a tower. Pulsing with light. Thousands of humanoid figures moved toward it in silence. One of them turned to look at me. It was me. But taller. Hairless. Eyes pure black. He didn't speak, but I felt his message. You're only 7 complete. I tried to run. Left town. Crashed at a friend's place in Boston. But the next night, I still woke up at 3:33 a.m. Still outside. Different yard. Same position. Same bleeding nose. It doesn't matter where I go. They find me. I've spoken to others. On forums. Late-night message boards. They all have similar stories. Missing time. Night wakes. The number 333. Some have scars. Some have implants. Some don't even remember their own names anymore. One woman claimed she got pregnant, despite having a hysterectomy 12 years ago. The baby was taken at 11 weeks. No miscarriage. No bleeding. Just gone. And in her ultrasound photos? A faint triangle of light, hovering in the background. I don't know what they're building. I don't know what they've done to me. But I can feel them activating something inside me. I haven't aged in 3 years. I don't get sick. I don't bleed when I cut myself anymore. And now, I see patterns in everything: sky maps, electronic noise, cracks in pavement. They all point to August 17th. 3 years to the day since the first time I woke up outside. That's tonight. And I'm scared to sleep. But I know I will. Because I always do. And when I wake up this time, I don't think I'll come back. So if you ever find yourself waking up in your backyard at 3:33 a.m. under a triangle of stars, it's already begun. And you're part of it now. It started with a nightmare. I was lying in bed, paralyzed. Something was sitting on my chest, not a shadow, not a hallucination. Something real. Heavy. Breathing. Its face hovered inches from mine. No features. Just a smooth, grey surface, like wet clay. But I knew it was looking at me. Studying me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. And then I woke up. Except I didn't. Because I was still in bed. Still paralyzed. Still staring into the face of that thing. They say sleep paralysis is common. I've read about it. Watched the documentaries. But this felt different. This wasn't my brain misfiring, this was someone, or something, actively holding me down. The worst part wasn't the fear. It was the silence. No voice. No whisper. Just pressure. Then, just as suddenly as it came, the weight lifted. I sat up, gasping. I thought it was over. I had no idea it was only the beginning. The next day was normal. Until I tried to speak. And nothing came out. Not a whisper. Not a hum. My vocal cords were completely inert. Doctors couldn't explain it. There was no damage. Nothing physically wrong. My vocal folds moved, but there was no vibration. Like something had shut me off from the inside. I wrote it off as temporary trauma from the paralysis. Stress. Fatigue. Until night fell. And I felt it again. It began with the same feeling, that electric buzz before a seizure. Then the sensation of sinking into my mattress. And then, frozen. The figure returned. But this time, it didn't just sit there. It began pulling at me. My limbs didn't move, but my mind did. It felt like it was yanking my consciousness, tearing it loose from my body like a thread being unraveled. I felt my vision split, part of me still staring up from bed, and part of me hovering above, staring down. That's when I saw it. There wasn't one figure. There were three. They surrounded me. Almost ritualistically. No tools. No probes. They weren't dissecting me. They were rewiring something. One placed its hand on my forehead. Another pressed a finger to my sternum. The third reached inside my chest. There was no pain. Just a sickening cold. I don't know how long it lasted. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. Then everything went black. I woke up in the hallway. Standing. Fully dressed. Mouth open in a silent scream. I stopped sleeping after that. Tried everything. Caffeine, lights on, noise, music. Didn't matter. Every time I closed my eyes, they came back. And each time, I lost more of myself. First my voice. Then my memory. I began forgetting names. Faces. Entire days would vanish from my calendar. I'd check my phone and see messages I never sent. Photos I never took. Locations I never visited. And always, there was that feeling in the back of my throat. Like a scream that couldn't escape. I went to specialists. Hypnotherapists. Even a priest. No one could help me. One psychiatrist suggested it was a form of alien abduction psychosis, a delusion brought on by prolonged sleep paralysis. Suggested antipsychotics. But when I told him about the figure's hand on my chest, his face went pale. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a burned handprint in the same spot. He didn't say a word. Just stood up and walked out of the room. I never saw him again. Eventually, I gave up speaking. What's the point when no one listens? When your words fall into the void. I started writing everything down. Cataloguing the visits. Drawing the figures. Mapping out times. Always between 2:58 and 3:36 a.m. Always lasting exactly 7 minutes. And always ending the same way, me screaming inside with nothing coming out. Last night was different. I didn't feel fear when they came. I felt acceptance. They didn't paralyze me this time. They stood at the foot of my bed, and for the first time, I heard their voices. Not in words. In vibrations. Tones. Like a melody made of gravity. I understood them, even though they didn't speak. Your frequency is harmonized. Then they opened their mouths. And I saw that they had no throats. Only voids. Echo chambers. They don't talk. They broadcast. And that's what they've made me. A vessel. An antenna. A man who can't scream because his voice isn't his anymore. Tonight is the final night. I feel it. They finished their work. I'm no longer afraid. I'm just empty. Like an instrument waiting to be played. So if you find this letter, if you hear a low hum in the middle of the night, like a far-off engine or a distant choir, cover your ears. Because it won't be me screaming. It'll be them using my voice. It all started with the mark. I was hiking alone near Devil's Tower, Wyoming, a last-minute trip to clear my head. The sun was dipping behind the pine trees when I felt a sharp sting on my forearm. I looked down. A perfectly round, reddish mark, the size of a quarter. No pain. No swelling. Just, there. I shrugged it off. But that night, strange things began. My dreams were invaded by light, blinding, pulsing light that filled a white room with no walls. I saw hands reaching toward me, but no faces. No voices. When I woke up, the mark had changed. It was glowing faintly. Over the next days, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. Strangers in town would glance at me, eyes wide but silent. My phone would lose signal when I tried to call for help. And every mirror showed something else. Not my reflection, but a shadow behind me. Always just out of reach. One night, the mark burned hot. I woke up to find the bedroom bathed in silver light. Standing at the foot of my bed was a figure, tall, thin, and shimmering. Not human, but not entirely alien either. It raised a hand and traced the mark on my arm. I couldn't move. The figure whispered, "You are chosen." Since then, I've been hearing voices in my head. Cold. Distant. Warning me. Telling me I must go with them. But when I try to leave town, the roads twist back. Trapped. Marked. Waiting. I don't know how much time I have left. But one thing's certain, the mark is not just a wound. It's a summons. A promise. And a curse. For years, I worked as a radio technician at a small station in Nevada. Static was part of my daily life, white noise, interference, the occasional crackle from distant thunderstorms. But then, one night, the static started talking. It wasn't a voice, exactly. More like a rhythm. A pattern hidden inside the noise. At first, I thought it was a prank or a glitch. But the signal was too precise. Too deliberate. I began recording the static every night at 2:17 a.m. After weeks of analyzing, I found a message encoded in bursts of Morse code. It spelled out a single phrase, "They are coming." The message repeated again and again. That night, my equipment malfunctioned. Lights flickered. Screens went black. And from the static, a voice whispered my name. It wasn't human. Cold. Mechanical. Unnerving. I felt a presence behind me but dared not turn. Since then, I've been hearing the voice everywhere. In my dreams. On the radio. On every device with a speaker. It tells me to prepare. To wait. To listen. I don't know who they are. But I know they're real. And they're closer than we think. If you ever hear a voice in the static, don't answer. Because once you do, it's already too late.